Welcome to your weekday cup of the Word. Today we start Romans. If you want to pick up a dense book in your Bible, you picked up the right one. Romans is a really powerful book. Romans is the book of faith. It talks about salvation by faith. And what on earth does that even mean? As you go through Romans, you're going to see answers to things like, why did Jesus have to die for you to be saved? What does His death and blood have to do with your salvation? It's going to talk about things like forgiveness and how does it work. It's going to talk about faith and what does a living faith actually look like. All of these big and important questions that are at the core of a Christian's life, you can find within Romans. You get Romans and you get Christianity. Now here in chapter 1, we're going to deal with the issue of sin. Because if you're going to understand how to be forgiven, you have to start out by saying, I need to be forgiven. Paul's going to spend the first 3 chapters of Romans explaining the need for forgiveness. And he's going to do that by pointing out that sin is real and that everybody's committed it. Now in chapter 1, he'll give some introductory material and he'll point out the purpose of the gospel. He'll say the faith that God has written, the book of faith, its goal is to provide you salvation and to produce within you a faithful life. And then he'll go on to talk about the opposite of that. The mankind that we see in all the nations around us. He's going to talk about how people suppress God's truth and how it leads to immorality and it leads to idolatry. People making up fake gods to fill their hearts because they won't accept the one true God. And how they forge lives built off of immorality. And the more immorality we get, the more immorality we want. And it creates this horrible cycle that leads to a life full of sin. And you can see that played out in every nation on the planet every single day. Romans chapter 1 says everybody sins. And Romans chapter 2 is going to zero in on a very specific group of people who say, oh yeah, everybody sins, but not me. But for now, that's Romans chapter 1. That's your daily cup, and we'll see you tomorrow.